here we are, Molly Carmel here, your coach, your bestie, fiercely devoted to your freedom. Love you to bits and pieces. So, if you're not a part of our Facebook group, I don't know why, but get on it. I'm doing this new thing where it's not a new thing, it's actually an old thing, but if I'm having a cup of coffee, I'm gonna have it with my little Facebook group, talk about things. And this morning, on our Facebook group, someone posted this idea about what she was going to do for Thanksgiving and what she was going to do about what she was going to do in her with her relationship with food for her summer vacation. And I was awake. I wake up pretty early, and I sometimes scroll through my phone when I'm done with my rituals in the morning. And I got so stressed out about the post, like, because here's the thing that's really, really important to remember. I mean, it's a pretty important life lesson, but it's like a dope lesson about your relationship with food. And there's such a difference because I'm like a pretty crazy person. I say that lovingly when it comes to planning, right? Hey, Lynn, when it comes to planning. I think it is except for breaking up with sugar, I think it's one of the most important skills we have because, first of all, it totally allows us to utilize our willpower. It is there when our willpower lets go, and willpower lasts about 15 minutes. So planning is so important. But it's funny, like all of these edges on edges on edges on edges, right? And so if anybody read the love letter on Sunday, I was talking about this, in this time of incredible uncertainty, how this desire to control can come up and really wreak havoc on our lives. And so what I was talking about in our Facebook group this morning was that there being such a huge difference between planning and future tripping. And by future tripping, I mean, my teacher, Marsha Linehan, one of my many teachers, side note, all of us need so many teachers, like get a lot of spiritual teachers. This is like my favorite and most important thing to talk about. My teacher, Marsha Linehan, who teaches me DBT, my therapy teacher, she says this really important thing. We've talked about it, but I think it's as a skill for all of us. I want to remind you of this, which is we have to be radically accepting things. Like radically accepting the truth about ourselves and our lives is so important, right? Because when we're not accepting, we're usually in so much suffering, right? And I can think about that in my own story with sugar. It's like when I was not accepting that I was in this abusive relationship with sugar, I was in so much pain. I was in so much suffering. And then when I deeply and radically accepted the true nature of my relationship with sugar was the first time I could heal it, right? But the thing about radical acceptance is this: you don't have to radically accept the future because we don't know what the future holds. And so it's a funny little switchy brain thing. And someone in my Facebook group really brought this up today when I said that there's a difference between planning and future tripping. Because what this was a wonderful thing. She said, when I think too much about the future, I think I can't do it, and then I binge. And doesn't that happen to us all, right? Sometimes, I can get really hungry in the middle of the night because I'm scared I'm not sleeping enough. I get too stressed out for the next day. Forget Thanksgiving. You know what I mean? And so there's this really fine line between planning and sort of radically accepting the future of Thanksgiving. Like, you guys, like right now, like who even knows anything, am I right? But I think it's such an important distinction because there's really nothing about the future in this moment that we need to accept, right? And we need to be planning for tomorrow, what we're eating, what we're going to do for work, right? Abby's saying it so beautifully too. Abby's saying, whenever I catastrophize, it's in the future, I get tripped up and then I want pizza or eggplant parm. Exactly. And here's the other thing, Lisa Yarusi, I love you. So here's the other thing, okay? And this is like a really, really important part. relationships, really good relationships, a lot of times they evolve and they grow in little bits and pieces, right? In these really like small, authentic ways. And diet culture has us like just always in People magazines, like before and after pictures, right? But true, loving, honest, good, solid relationships really grow and develop rather slowly and peacefully, right? And I told the story on the Facebook group today, but I'll tell it again. And I remember when I don't drink, and so when I gave up drinking, my best friend Alexandria, she was getting married. So got sober in September. My best friend Drew was getting married in May, and I remember being like, I don't know what I'm going to do at that wedding. Like almost what this woman was saying. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do at Thanksgiving. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do at that wedding. There's going to be so much alcohol. There's going to be so much drinking. It's going to be crazy and all the food. And I was like future tripping. And this friend of mine said, Molly, there's a big difference between 1 month and 8 months, And it's so true. And it's even more true with the food, which is if we focus on the present day and what we have in front of us when it comes to our relationship with food, and again, just like the scale, if we focus on the relationship, then Thanksgiving's not that hard. I mean, and by the way, besties, who's got your back around Thanksgiving? Me. You spend, well, maybe not as much time as you spend together during pandemic, but we spend a whole lot. I get you prepped and ready for Thanksgiving. Like, don't you even worry. But the truth is that, I mean, if you want to know the answer to Thanksgiving, it's Thursday. We don't do anything, right? We just put a little bit of extra sunscreen on. We get it done. Do you know what I mean? So little by little by little, one day, and you guys know there's just so many people, we've watched it in CTK. One day becomes 3 days, becomes 7 days, becomes 2 months. And then, by the way, and Andy, I really want you to hear this. When you get a bunch of days together, my loves, right? When you get a bunch of days together, by the time Thanksgiving comes, you have something to protect. And I'm always going to say this. This is the part about it. This is the part about personal integrity. This is the part about honoring personal integrity. Like, this is where it really counts. Because when you just sort of do the next right thing every day, little by little, piece by piece, bit by bit, slowly but surely, you really create a new relationship. And so when you're sitting at Thanksgiving or even on your summer vacation, you're a different person. You've leveled up and your experience is going to level up. And then it's just like a little bit of planning, right? But if we're obsessing about the future, what am I going to do on Thanksgiving? It's like, don't bite, don't bite, don't bite, don't bite. And my sister uses this phrase, Andy reminds me of, it's one of my favorite phrases, right? And she says, like, it's not a right now problem. I use it a lot in therapy. If you've ever been in a therapy office with me, people get really future trippy, right? They're like, well, and like, I remember, right? It's like, well, what if I want to have cake at my wedding? And it's like, well, are you engaged? No. Okay, so that's not a right now problem. That's not a right now problem. And I want us to be really thinking about that. Like, is it a right now problem? Right? Is it a right now problem? And is there anything I can do about it in this moment, right? Is there anything I can do about it in this moment? And there's nothing that going and binging is going to do to make anything better. There's nothing so bad that binging doesn't make worse. Am I right? There's nothing so bad that binging doesn't make worse. And so of course you want to be planning. I love planning. I love it, except for you got to be flexible in your planning, right? Like, I thought that there was a certain dinner in my refrigerator tonight and there wasn't, so I had to get a little bit flexible, right? I had to get a little bit flexible. Okay, but I still had a plan, and then I negotiated off of the plan. But my loves, the very last thing we need to be thinking about, right? Like, Thanksgiving is not a right now problem, right? What we're going to eat on our summer vacation, it's May. It's not even Memorial Day yet. It's not a right now problem. And for many of us, thank you, Andy, thank you, Abby, and for many of us, it's a trick. It's a little mind switch that sugar is trying to get back in, that binging's trying to get back in. Don't buy it. Don't buy the hype, my loves. Don't buy the hype. Okay? So that's the deal. I love that skill. It's going to be a skill. We're making it a skill. The skill is we ask ourselves, Is it a right now problem? And I love that. Lynn saying, I'm just trying to live my life day to day right now. Like, me too, girl. Me too. My dear friend Dan is like, Molly, we don't go more than 3 days ahead. You know, right now we try not to even plan more than 3 days ahead. I am with you. I am with you. There's something very comforting in just staying in the day, right? Everything else is a bit of a mind trick. I really want to say it. And I get it. Crystal's like, I've always been an over-the-top planner, but there's a difference between planning and future tripping, right? Like, I love the idea of planning. But when we get into the, well, what's going to happen, well, what's going to happen in December? It's like, December's a real far away. And you know what we say? It's not a right now problem. Hey, Bernadette, it's not a right now problem. It gets obsessive. And the other thing is that, you guys, like, there's no wise mind. There's no presence in obsessing, right? It takes us away from creating the foundational relationship that we're creating with food. And so, yeah, it's 1 day at a time. Sometimes it's 1 hour at a time. Sometimes it's 1 second at a time. It's just right here. Is it a right now problem? There's a fundamental difference between planning and future tripping. And that's your skill for tonight, my loves. Abby, you want to ask yourself, is pizza a food that loves me back? It's a good question to do some contemplative prayer on. So anyway, I've spoken enough for tonight, my loves. And let's do a little closing of the kitchen. Hands on our hearts for ourselves, hands on our hearts for our beautiful Close the Kitchen community, hands on our hearts for those struggling with their food and weight disorders, hands on our hearts for everybody struggling in the world. Oh yeah, Crystal, that's my line. In my house, they're big into making like almond flour with cacao nibs with a little bit of stevia. You know, sort of, it can get a tricky mind, you know, and I'm like, that's not my food. That's what I always say. So here we go. Everyone's closing the kitchen. Amy's closed the kitchen. Incredible. Randy's closed it. Good. Yes. Karen, I love you. Closed the kitchen. Rose closed the kitchen. Andy, love you. Thank you. Close the kitchen. Lynn's closed the kitchen. Taylor's closed the kitchen. Martha's closed the kitchen. Lisa's closed the kitchen. Carrie, love you. Closed the kitchen. Anna, amazing. Anna's on day 67 of closing the kitchen. Bernadette's closed the kitchen after dinner. Rachel, Liz, Gail, Alicia, yeah, close the kitchen. That ain't my food. Crystal, love you. Zachary's closed the kitchen. Ted's closing the kitchen. Roseanne, Brenna, my love. Carol, Janice, Crystal, Sharon, amazing. Stephanie, messy kitchen but closed. Awesome. Abby's closing in a half hour. Abby's going to pray about her relationship with pizza. I think you're going to get a great answer. And we will do it all again tomorrow, my loves. I love you, I love you, I love you. If no one's told you they love you today, I do. And we'll see you tomorrow night. Bye, guys.